For all of us who have been stuck using After Effects, this tutorial aims to bring a simple, easy to do project that you can complete in around 20 minutes or so. It does not go deep into the nitty-gritty of Cavalry, but it shows how to move among the components and attributes to make this simple animation. It is not flashy, it is not even a good animation, but it will be your first Cavalry project. Let's get started. First things first, when you open up Cavalry, you will be greeted with a white background. In yours, it might be horizontal, but I have changed mine to be vertical. I have also added two folders, namely Assets and Comps for ease of use. You can check your composition by hitting Ctrl+K, like in After Effects. I have set a vertical resolution with 30 FPS frame rate. I will also be turning motion blur on. Whilst importing an asset, if you have sequential naming, your assets will import as a sequence. In order to not do that, select all the assets that are to be imported, and in the option below, select Still PNG. In this way, it will be imported as individual assets. I will change the composition's name to main comp. You might want to change the background of the composition, but white is fine for me. Then, I will add our first layer by clicking the plus icon. It is called a background shape, which will create a shape the size of our composition. In order to make a gradient, Cavalry has a different approach. Here, we use shaders. In the fill option, you can add a gradient shader and make changes as you want. I will make the gradient go from a lighter blue to a darker blue. Next, I will be importing a logo for my animation. It is an SVG file and it imports easily into Cavalry. When trying to bring it into the composition, we can import it with separate layers or as a single asset. I'm going with the latter option. I will also resize it and move it to its designated place at the top of the composition. You can also use the align tools to align it as well. Then, it is on to the circle making. I will create a circle by pressing Alt and clicking on the circle icon. I will resize and place it accordingly. I will also go to the fill option and make it white. It is best to maintain hierarchy in the same window for better visibility. I will also make the gradient a child of the background shape. This just makes it easy to view as we will not be changing the background anymore. Let's also rename our ellipse to circle. We will also duplicate it and name it stroke. Take its stroke and remove its fill. Let's adjust the width of the stroke as well as its size to make it a little bigger than the circle itself. Then, we will be bringing in the biryani images. Grab all three images and drop it to the scene window or to the viewer. Select them all and you can change their properties at once. I will make them 0.8 in scale and move it slightly down. Maybe 0.9 suits best. Then, just like parenting, in order to make the circle's movement affect the biryanis, I will make them a child object of the circle itself. Then, if we rotate it, the image will rotate as well. Just to manage the layers, I will bring the stroke inside the circle as well. We can lock our background layer to avoid moving it by mistake. Then, let's keyframe the logo and the circle, and after around 45 frames, let's change the respective directions. I like a smooth up and down kind of effect. We can then interpolate it by right-clicking on the keyframes and making them slow in and out. Make further adjustments to your liking. I just want to pull the logo a bit faster, so I simply drag the keyframe down 15 frames. Then, add a text box to your scene by clicking on the T icon and pressing it onto the main composition. Write whatever you want. For me, it's Bon Appetit. Select a good font and change its color. One thing to note, the anchor point of the text seems to be a bit off. You can change it by clicking on the anchor point icon and pressing Ctrl to snap it to the 9 different points highlighted onto the screen. You can also press Alt to make the text move around the anchor point. The simplest way to snap the anchor to the center is by pressing Y for the anchor tool and by pressing 5 on the numpad to center it to the object. Make a few final adjustments to the text and view your animation. Now, it is a matter of animating the circle moving. I am rotating it every 45 frames and holding it at the same time. I will also be moving my second image up and rotating it to fit the circle's rotation. Make more keyframes and make the circle rotate once more for a complete animation. You might want to interpolate it to slow in and slow out as well. Also, one key thing missing is motion blur. You can turn it on by selecting your layers and changing the motion blur property to full. Also, make sure the motion blur icon on the scene window is turned on as well. The main animation is done. You can adjust your animation to your liking. Here, I am just nudging things around to make it cleaner for me to view my project. This is totally dependent on your own interest. Finally, in order to animate the text, you can select the text and click on the forward-looking arrow. This will add an auto-animated former. Basically, it will add the default animation. We will keep it at that and only change its interpolation. I also want the text to be a bit curved, so I will draw a line with the pen tool and make that line a child of the main text. I will add that very editable shape to the text path option in my text and adjust the length as needed. I will make final adjustments to the placement and its scale. With everything completed, the final step is to render it. In order to do that, go to the render manager and click on current composition or drag a composition to add it to the render manager. You can change your file name, frame range, and even render quality here. Select MP4 in the format option and press render all to view your final output. I hope this has been useful. I will see you again next time with more Cavalry content. Take care.